The metallic click cut through the afternoon air like a verdict at my own front door. My own house, and the key that used to open everything in my world did nothing. I tried again. Twisting, pressing, begging the door to remember me. The lock stayed cold and silent, and through the frosted glass I could see shadows moving in my living room. Laughter drifted out. Not my laughter! Not my family's rhythm. It was foreign, careless, almost joyful. After a month trapped in the hospital, healing from a stroke that made my right hand tremble and my tongue stumble, I had spent the cab ride home rehearsing how good it would feel to walk into my own space again. To breathe the scent of my lavender couch and the lemon polish I always used on the banister. Instead, I was a stranger on my own porch, suitcase wheels catching on the cracked step. I knocked softly, then louder. The curtain twitched. The door opened just far enough for a face to appear. Pepper's mother, Darlene Moore, wearing my silk robe like it had always belonged to her. She didn't even look embarrassed. "Oh, Moren, you're back," she said, like I was an uninvited guest. "We didn't expect you so soon." "I live here," I managed, my words slurring from the stroke but still sharp enough to cut. "Where's my son?" She smiled, tight, polite, dismissive. "Inside, but it's not a good time. We just got the floors redone." I looked past her shoulder. My furniture was gone. My paintings replaced. Even the curtains were new cheap polyester where my lace once hung. The scent that met me wasn't lemon polish but fried onions and something heavy with grease. "Darlene," I whispered. "This is my house. That's not what Weston said." Her tone was casual, almost sweet. And that hurt more than cruelty. Then Weston Moore, my only son, stepped into the hallway. He looked smaller than I remembered. His shoulders rounded, eyes darting between us. "Mom," he said, too soft. "You shouldn't be here right now. You need to rest." "Rest?" I repeated, my breath catching. "I've been resting for a month. I want to go home." He rubbed the back of his neck, the way he always did when he was lying. "Mom, I let Pepper's folks stay for a bit. You know, while you were in the hospital. Their lease ended and it's been hard for them. I figured since the place was empty." "Empty?" My voice cracked on the word. "Weston, this is my house. You don't give away someone's home like a motel room." He sighed, glanced at Darlene, and I saw it, the invisible thread of loyalty pulling him toward her. "They needed somewhere to stay, Ma. You're not even working. You have your savings. I'll help you find somewhere nice for a few weeks. Just till things settle." My knees went weak. "I have nowhere else," I said quietly. He reached into his wallet, pulled out a few folded bills, crisp, perfumed with aftershave, and pressed them into my shaking hand. "Here, $500. There's an extended stay motel by the highway. It's decent." For a long moment, I just stared at the money. It felt like payment for something I didn't agree to. Rent for the life they'd stolen. "Weston," I whispered, "don't do this." But he wouldn't meet my eyes. "You need rest," he said again, and closed the door. The lock turned, firm, final, familiar. I stood there listening to the bolt slide into place. The same sound I'd heard 1,000 nights before when I tucked him safely inside. Now it was a barrier between us. When the cab driver asked if I needed a ride somewhere, I nodded without knowing where I was going. My hospital wristband was still wrapped around my wrist. My suitcase rattled on the sidewalk like a broken promise. At the motel, the clerk looked at me with practiced sympathy and handed me a key card. The room smelled like bleach and loneliness. I sat on the edge of the bed, the hum of the air conditioner filling the silence, and realized my entire life had been traded for someone else's comfort. That night, I boiled water in a paper cup and stirred in instant coffee. Ate crackers from the vending machine. I told myself it was temporary, that Weston would call, that my house would remember me, but the days blurred, and the phone never rang. I watched the last of the bills shrink, coffee by coffee, cracker by cracker. $500 doesn't last forever. And I had no idea what came next. The motel clock ticked too loud in the silence. Day 3. The kind of morning that feels hollow even. Before the sun climbs up, I was staring at the empty coffee cup on the nightstand when my phone buzzed, an unknown number, flashing across the cracked screen. I hesitated before answering. "Hello, Moren?" Girl, what in the world is going on? It was Cousin Rita from Delaware, sharp-tongued, loyal, and the kind of woman who never stayed out of family business, especially when it smelled wrong. Rita, I breathed, my throat dry. How did you— Facebook, she interrupted, her voice tight. Why is there a video of Darlene and Randall giving a house tour? Your house, Moren, and the caption says, finally moved into our forever home. Bless. Weston's tagged in it. For a second, I couldn't speak. My heart went heavy, sinking deep in my chest. They what? I'm looking right at it, she said. Your kitchen, your hallway, even that blue vase you got from Savannah. They're smiling like they won the lottery. I reached for my phone, hands trembling, opened Facebook, and there it was. A shaky, overexcited video. Darlene's voice chirping, welcome to our new home. Couldn't have done it without family. Randall panned the camera across the living room, my living room, where my family photos had been replaced by theirs. Weston stood in the background, clapping, smiling nervously. The comments were full of hearts and congratulations. Emojis. Every like felt like another nail sealing my exile. Rita's voice broke through the ringing in my ears. You need to go down there with the police, Moren. That's theft. That's elder abuse. The words hit me hard. I'd been calling it betrayal, disrespect, madness, but never abuse. That word felt like it belonged to other people, people with bruises, not mothers locked out by their own blood. I don't even know where to start. I whispered. Your son's being used, Rita said flatly. But that don't change the fact that they put you out your own home while you were still sick. You gotta document everything. Take screenshots, receipts, hospital papers, all of it. Her voice softened then, like sugar melting into tea. You didn't deserve this, baby. Don't let them make you feel small. After we hung up, I stared at the wall for a long time. The sound of traffic outside the motel window blurred into a hum. My body was tired, but my mind wouldn't rest. I scrolled through the video again, pausing on Darlene's grin. She looked proud, triumphant, even like she'd won some quiet war I didn't know. I was fighting. When Weston came to visit me in the hospital last month, he'd held my hand, told me not to worry about bills or property taxes. Just focus on getting better, Mom, he'd said, voice steady, eyes gentle. Pepper and I got you. And like a fool, I'd believed him. Now, seeing him smile in that video, surrounded by her parents, I realized what I'd lost wasn't just a house. It was my place in his life. I sat back on the bed, clutching my phone. The video kept looping, same laughter, same betrayal. But Rita's words lingered louder than the noise. Elder abuse, it wasn't just wrong. It was illegal, and suddenly the shame that had been pressing on my chest started to burn instead. Shame turned to anger. Anger turned to focus. That's what this was. Not a family disagreement. Not a misunderstanding, abuse, and for the first time since that door had locked behind me, I started to imagine what fighting back might look like. I'll figure it out, I told myself that night. Even though my voice shook with the lie, because to say I need help would mean admitting that I had raised a son capable of doing this to me. That the same boy I'd fed, clothed, prayed over, and defended could turn around and leave me standing on a sidewalk, like a stranger begging for scraps of her own life. But the universe doesn't wait for you to find your pride. Sometimes it just shoves the truth in your lap. 3 days later, my motel phone rang. The front desk clerk called up saying, "Ma'am, someone from the county wants to speak with you." A moment later, a steady male voice came through. "Mrs. Vernon? This is Officer Daniels from Fulton County Sheriff's Department. We need you to come down to the station regarding your property on Cedar Lane." My heart stuttered. My house? Yes, ma'am. There's been an incident, a gas leak, reported by a neighbor during construction work. We also need to confirm some documents related to ownership. Ownership? The word felt like ice in my stomach. I dressed slowly, hands trembling. My reflection in the motel mirror looked like a woman halfway between life and ghost. Same tired eyes, same small hope that maybe someone realized this was all a mistake. At the station, Officer Daniels met me with a clipboard and a face too kind for what he was about to say. "Mrs. Vernon, thank you for coming in. I understand this might be confusing, but we've had reports that the property deed changed ownership about 3 weeks ago." "Changed?" I repeated, gripping my purse tight. That's impossible. I didn't sell my house. He nodded like he'd heard it before. That's what I figured. We compared the signatures on the title transfer and the notarized authorization. There are irregularities. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were photocopies, my name printed in bold letters, my supposed signature looping neatly across the bottom of the page. But it wasn't mine. My handwriting had been shaky since the stroke. This one was smooth, practiced, perfect. I didn't sign this, I whispered. I believe you, Daniel said. But whoever did, they filed it with the county clerk using a notary who doesn't exist. The notary license number is fake. He kept talking about permit fraud, unauthorized remodeling, building violations, but my mind was spinning. Images flashed through it. Darlene in my robe, Weston avoiding my eyes. That bright new paint in the Facebook video. They weren't just staying there. They were rebuilding it. For themselves. There's also a financial trail. Daniels continued, flipping another page. Your son's account transferred $10,000 to a contractor under Randall Moore's name. When the gas line was disturbed, the fire department flagged the permit. That's how we found out something was off. I pressed a hand to my chest. So they forged my name and took over my property? He hesitated before answering, and that pause said everything. Mrs. Vernon, I can't speak to intent, he said gently. But the paperwork suggests fraud. And from the timeline, it looks like it happened while you were still in the hospital. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The sterile room tilted a little. The fluorescent lights buzzed like a swarm of bees. I thought about how I'd been lying in that hospital bed, tubes in my arm, thinking my son was taking care of things. That he was paying the light bill and keeping my plants watered. And all the while, someone was erasing me from my own address. I looked down at the forged signature again. My name stolen right off the page. Officer Daniels slid a formal complaint form toward me. I need you to file this, he said quietly. This isn't a misunderstanding anymore. This is serious. We're talking forgery, fraud, possibly identity theft. The words hung in the air like smoke, thick and heavy. Fraud, identity theft, criminal. They sounded impossible. But so did the fact that my son had handed over my house keys and walked away like it was nothing. I signed the complaint, my real signature this time. Shaky but mine. As I pushed the paper back, my hand brushed the edge of that fake deed. Smooth, perfect. Soulless. I thought of all the times I'd signed permission slips for Weston in grade school. Written checks for his first car. Co-signed his apartment lease when he was just starting out. Every time I'd been the one vouching for him. Now. Someone else had signed for me and taken everything I had left. When I left the sheriff's office, the autumn air felt colder, sharper, more aware. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just betrayal. It was a crime, and I was done pretending it was anything less. The door to the interview room swung open, and for a second I forgot how to breathe. Weston stepped in first, my son. The boy I once rocked through thunderstorms, now a man I barely recognized. His eyes were sunken, his posture small, his wedding ring still glinting under the fluorescent. Lights like a lie that refused to die. Behind him came Darlene and Randall Moore. Her parents, both of them dressed too fine for a police station. Darlene wore pearls. Randall had on a crisp church suit, the kind you wear when you're about to tell a bold-faced lie and want God to look the other way. Mama, Weston said, voice soft as paper. What's going on? They said you filed something. I didn't let him finish. Sit down. He blinked, caught off guard. Maybe he expected tears or hugs. Not this new quiet version of me, the one who'd already been emptied out and was done begging to be refilled. Officer Daniels closed the door behind them. Mrs. Vernon, these individuals are here because they're named in the investigation. I'll be recording this conversation for legal documentation. Darlene laughed lightly, touching her pearls. Investigation? Oh, this is all a misunderstanding. Weston told us we could stay. He said you didn't want the house anymore. I turned my gaze on her, steady. While I was in the hospital. She opened her mouth, but Randall jumped in. You weren't even living there. We did the upkeep, fixed the floors, painted. You should be thanking us. I leaned back in the chair. You painted over my memories. The room went still. Weston rubbed his hands together. eyes darting between us like he was watching two fires he didn't know how to put out. "Mama, listen," he said finally. "They told me you wanted to downsize. They said you'd mentioned it before the stroke." I stared at him long and hard. "And you believe that? You didn't ask me. I was trying to help." His voice cracked, his eyes flashing with that desperate need to be seen as good. "I was handling bills, doctor calls, everything while you were sick. I thought I was doing the right thing." "The right thing?" I leaned forward. "The right thing is not handing over your mama's house to your wife's parents, Weston." His shoulders slumped. "I didn't know they forged my signature." I interrupted. "Filed fake deeds? Changed the locks on me? Sold my furniture? You didn't know any of that?" Darlene crossed her legs, annoyed. "You're twisting this. Randall just helped with paperwork. It's not our fault if the notary messed something up." "The notary doesn't exist," Officer Daniels cut in flatly. "And your signatures match the fraudulent transfer documents." Randall's face went red. "We were trying to protect our family. Weston's our son-in-law. He said it was fine." Daniels turned to Weston. "Did you authorize them to file any deeds or transfers on your mother's behalf?" Weston shook his head slowly, realization creeping into his face like a dawn he didn't want to see. "No, I thought they were helping handle the taxes." I watched it hit him, the shame, the betrayal, the weight of it all. He sank down in the chair like a boy again. "Mama," he whispered, "I didn't know. I swear." I wanted to scream, to shake him, to ask how he could not know while I slept in a motel and they paraded through my house in Facebook videos. But the truth was sitting right in front of me. He had been blind because it was easier. Officer Daniels stood. "We're documenting all of this. Mrs. Vernon, you have grounds for a civil claim and possibly criminal charges. I'll be in touch once we confirm the handwriting analysis." Darlene muttered something about family business, and Randall pushed up from his chair, his voice tight. "You'll regret this. You're tearing your own family apart." I looked up slowly. "Family doesn't steal your home. They left in a swirl of perfume and arrogance." Weston stayed behind, staring at the table. "Mama, I'm so sorry," he said, his voice small. "I thought I was helping everyone. I didn't see what they were doing. I cut him off." "You didn't want to see. That's the difference." Tears pooled in his eyes, but I didn't move. The part of me that used to rush to comfort him had gone quiet. "I'm getting a taxi," I said, standing. "Don't call unless it's about the house or the investigation." "Mama, no." I grabbed my bag and walked out. Outside, the late afternoon light hit my face sharp. Clean, honest dot. The taxi pulled up, engine humming. I got in without looking back. Through the glass, I could see Weston standing on the curb, small and still. The man who gave away my house but couldn't figure out how to ask for forgiveness. The city blurred by as we drove. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like a woman finally ready to fight for what was hers. My phone started ringing before I even reached the motel door. By the time I set my purse down, it had buzzed so many times it sounded like a trapped insect. I looked at the screen. 55 missed calls. All from numbers I recognized too well. Weston, Pepper, Darlene, even Randall. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I sat on the edge of the motel bed and let it ring again. The vibration made the flimsy knitstand rattle, a nervous little heartbeat echoing the one in my chest. I knew what they wanted: apologies, explanations, another chance to twist my guilt into silence. Then came the messages. "Mom, can we talk? Please don't make this worse. We can fix this as a family. You don't need police involved. Think about Pepper's parents. They're old. You raised me better than this." That last one nearly broke me. Because yes, I had raised him better than this. But somehow he'd chosen worse. I deleted the messages one by one. Steady, deliberate, like pruning dead branches. When the phone went quiet again, I picked it up and dialed a number I hadn't called in years. Violet from church. She'd worked as a legal secretary before retirement, and she was the kind of woman who never let anyone walk over her twice. "Violet?" I said when she answered. "It's Moren. I need help." Within an hour, she met me at the public library near Peachtree Street. I hadn't stepped into that building in a long time, but walking through its glass doors felt like entering a different kind of sanctuary. No prayers, just quiet purpose. We sat in front of a dusty computer terminal while she searched the Fulton County records. Her eyes narrowed behind her glasses. There it is. Transfer of ownership, notarized under a license that's been expired for 5 years. Baby, that's not sloppy, it's criminal. I stared at the screen. At the line that said, former owner Moren Vernon, new owner, Randall and Darlene Moore, just like that. My name had been moved aside, digitally erased from the only place that had ever been mine. Violet reached into her purse and handed me a business card. You need a shark. Call Naomi Trent. She's a real estate attorney out in Midtown. Handles cases like this all the time. I looked down at the name embossed in silver letters. Naomi Trent. Esque, property law and elder rights. Something about those last 2 words, elder rights, made my spine straighten. The next morning, I rode the bus downtown to Naomi's office. She was a young black woman, maybe mid-30s, hair in tight coils pulled back into a bun, eyes sharp but kind. Her handshake was firm, her voice even firmer. I read your file, she said after I told her everything. And I want to be clear, what they did isn't a misunderstanding. It's theft. It's forgery. It's fraud. But we can fight this, Mrs. Vernon. How? I asked, my voice small. They have the house. The deed. The papers. She smiled slightly. Paper lies. Evidence doesn't. The notary's fake, the signature's forged, and the transfer was filed while you were hospitalized. That's enough to start a storm. But I need to know how far you want to go. I hesitated. What are my choices? She leaned forward. Civil lawsuit. Criminal charges. Or both. The room went quiet for a beat. The hum of the city floated through the window sirens, tires on pavement, someone shouting across the street. All of it faded beneath the weight of one thought. This is my chance to stop being powerless. I took a deep breath. All of it, I said. Do it. Naomi nodded once, like a general readying for war. Good, then we start today. We'll file for injunction, secure a restraining order against any further changes to the property, and request a forensic signature analysis. They think you're weak because you're older. Let's remind them exactly who raised that boy. I felt my lips curve into the faintest smile. It wasn't joy. It was something harder, stronger. Naomi stood and extended her hand again. Welcome to the fight, Mrs. Vernon. I took it. Let's make them regret ever hearing my name. When I left her office, the city air didn't feel as heavy. The sun was still bright, the noise still loud, but I felt something new beneath it all. Power. For the first time since that lock clicked shut on my own front door. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was ready. When I stepped out of Naomi Trent's office that day, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Control. The kind that comes from knowing you finally have someone in your corner who can swing harder than your fear. The next few weeks moved fast. Naomi didn't just file paperwork. She dropped lightning. She sent formal complaints to the county clerk, the notary board, and the district attorney. Within days, the fraudulent deed was flagged. The Moore's renovation permit was revoked. And a legal notice was nailed right onto my front porch. Property under dispute, court-ordered investigation in progress. I imagined Darlene reading that paper with her manicured hand trembling for once. I bet she didn't post that part on Facebook. The legal war had begun. Every morning, Naomi called with updates. The county froze the property account. She said one day. Another time. The handwriting analysis confirmed the forgery. It's open and shut. Each call peeled away a little more of my humiliation. Replaced it with something sharper. Purpose. Weston tried calling again. Dozens of times. Each voicemail sounded smaller than the last. Mom, please, can we talk? I didn't know about the fake notary. They're saying they'll lose everything. Can we just fix this quietly? I didn't reply. I'd done quiet. Quiet had gotten me locked out of my own home. 2 weeks later, Naomi's paralegal dropped off a thick envelope at the motel. Case file, Vernon versus Moore. Seeing my name at the top of that folder felt surreal. Not as a victim. As a plaintiff. I opened it and saw my story laid out in black and white photocopies of forged deeds. Statements, financial transfers, even the county hospital report proving I was admitted when the papers were filed. Every lie they told had a timestamp. Every betrayal had evidence. I smiled to myself. They were finally on record. The knock came just after sunset. I peered through the peephole and froze. Pepper. Her makeup was smudged, her eyes red. For a moment, I saw the same girl who used to bring me flowers on Mother's Day, who once called me Mama Mo before her parents got too comfortable in my house. I opened the door halfway, keeping the chain latched. Pepper. She pressed her palms together. Please, can I come in? Just for a minute. I hesitated, then nodded. The chain slid loose. She stepped inside, clutching her purse like it held her whole world. I know you hate me, she started, voice trembling. And you should. But please don't do this. Don't press charges. My parents, this will destroy them. My dad's blood pressure's bad. Mama's terrified. Please, Mrs. Vernon. Just drop it. I looked at her. Really looked. The same girl who'd once helped me in the kitchen was standing in front of me begging for mercy for the people who stole everything I owned. I was in a hospital bed. I said quietly, with tubes in my arms while your parents were forging my name. Do you know what that felt like? Waking up and realizing my son gave away my home like a spare room? Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't know. Then you weren't looking, I cut in. None of you were. She sank onto the chair near the window, crying softly. I just want my family back, she whispered. I felt a pang, then not sympathy, exactly, but sorrow. Because she was still clinging to the illusion that you can rebuild something after you've burned it down. Pepper, I said gently, you and Weston will have to figure that out yourselves. But I'm not protecting the people who destroyed me. She covered her face with her hands. This will kill them. I stood. What about what it did to me? She didn't answer. After a long silence, I walked to the door and opened it. The night air rushed in, cool and final. I think it's time for you to go, I said softly. She rose slowly, wiping her cheeks. Please, she whispered one last time. But I didn't move. I just stood there steady, unshaken. She stepped into the hallway, and I closed the door behind her. Through the thin walls, I could hear her sobbing, her footsteps fading down the corridor until there was nothing left but silence and the hum of the motel air conditioner. I exhaled slowly, realizing that mercy and weakness aren't the same thing. For years, I'd believed being kind meant letting people get away with hurting me. Not anymore. I picked up my phone and texted Naomi 3 words, press all charges. Then I turned off the lamp, crawled into bed, and for the first time in months, slept without fear. Tuesday morning came wrapped in gray clouds, the kind that hang low and heavy, like the world itself was holding its breath. I ironed my blouse twice, even though the wrinkles didn't matter, dabbed a little perfume on my wrist, and caught the early MARTA train downtown. I didn't want to look broken when I faced them again. Not today. When I walked into the courthouse, Naomi was already waiting by the security line, crisp navy suit, calm as ever. You ready, Mrs. Vernon? I nodded, clutching my purse close. Ready as I'll ever be. Good. Today's just the preliminary hearing, no verdicts, no jury yet. We just need the judge to agree there's enough evidence to move forward. And trust me, she said, adjusting her glasses. There's more than enough. The hallway outside courtroom 3C smelled like disinfectant and nerves. Reporters murmured near the door, but Naomi kept her arm linked through mine and guided me inside like a mother lion guarding her cub. And there they were, Darlene and Randall Moore, sitting at the defense table in their Sunday best. Darlene wore a floral dress and a fake church smile. Randall's tie was too tight. His jowls sagged like he hadn't slept in days. Weston sat behind them, not beside. His suit looked borrowed, wrinkled, his hands clasped together so tight his knuckles whitened. When his eyes found mine, I saw it: regret, guilt. The weight of a man realizing too late the cost of silence. The clerk called the case. State of Georgia versus Randall Moore and Darlene Moore. Forgery, fraud, identity theft. Elder exploitation. The words echoed like thunder in that quiet courtroom. Naomi rose smoothly. Your Honor, she began. The evidence will show that my client, Mrs. Moren Vernon, was hospitalized and incapacitated when her property was unlawfully transferred, her signature forged, and her home occupied under false pretenses. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a calculated theft. The defense lawyer, a sweaty man in a cheap gray suit, shuffled his papers. Your Honor, My clients were under the impression that Mrs. Vernon had given permission. The deed was signed with her family's cooperation. Her son, Naomi interrupted sharply, was misled by these defendants. They exploited his trust and his mother's illness for personal gain. The judge raised an eyebrow. Counsel, let's keep it professional. We're just here to establish probable cause. Naomi nodded, but her eyes never left Darlene's. Of course. Your Honor. Then came the exhibits, the fake notary license, the deed with my forged signature, the bank transfers into Randall's account. Naomi walked through them methodically, her tone calm but slicing like glass. When the clerk read aloud my hospital admission dates proving I'd been unconscious during the signing, Darlene finally looked down. Randall's jaw twitched. I sat perfectly still, hands folded in my lap. I didn't flinch when they called my name, didn't blink when the judge asked if I was present. Yes, Your Honor, I said clearly. My voice didn't shake this time. After an hour of testimony and evidence, the judge leaned back, rubbing his temple. This case has more than sufficient cause to proceed to trial, he said finally. Bail is set at $50,000 each. Darlene gasped. Randall muttered something under his breath. Weston buried his face in his hands. The bailiff moved forward, handcuffs clinking, and for a brief moment, Darlene's eyes met mine. Gone was the smugness, the condescension. All that remained was fear, real, human fear. I waited for satisfaction to rise, some sense of justice, of victory. But there was nothing. Just stillness, not pity. Not anger, just nothing. Naomi placed a gentle hand on my shoulder as we left. You did good today. I nodded, but my heart was quiet. Justice was moving forward, yes, but it didn't feel like triumph. It felt like loss, dressed up in legal paperwork. As we stepped into the courthouse sunlight, Naomi turned to me. Trial's next month. We'll be ready. I looked up at the sky, gray still, heavy but clearing at the edges. So will I said softly. The courthouse steps were slick from a light drizzle, the kind of rain that makes the city smell like wet brick and worn-out dreams. I was halfway down when I heard someone call my name. Mama. That voice. Even after everything, my heart still knew it. I stopped, but didn't turn right away. Weston came running down the steps, his tie askew, his shoes splashing through puddles. He looked thinner, older like the past few. Weeks had stripped something from him that no amount of sleep could replace. He caught up to me under the awning. Please, Mama. Wait, I turned slowly. What do you want, Weston? He swallowed hard. To talk, just to talk. Naomi glanced at me, eyebrows raised, then gave a quiet nod and stepped aside toward the curb. I'll wait by the car, she murmured. She knew I needed to face this one alone. Weston shifted from foot to foot, hands shoved deep in his pockets. His voice cracked when he finally spoke. I moved out. I frowned. Out of where? Out of the house. Out of Pepper's parents' mess. I'm staying at a friend's place for now. I told Pepper I can't live like that anymore. He rubbed his face, eyes red. I filed for a separation. The words hung between us. Heavy but real. He looked up at me, searching for something in my face, maybe forgiveness. Maybe a way back to the boy he used to be. I was blind, Mama, he said softly. They told me you didn't want the place anymore, that you were too sick to handle things. I wanted to believe them because it was easier than facing the truth. But when I saw you in court sitting there, strong, calm, I realized how wrong I was. You didn't need me to save you. You needed me to stand with you. I studied him for a long moment. His suit was wrinkled, his collar damp from the rain. He wasn't lying. Not this time. Shame has a way of making even grown men sound like children again. Weston, I said finally, you let them turn you into a stranger to your own mother. I know. His voice broke. And I'll live with that for the rest of my life. But I'm done letting them control me. I'm trying to fix it. I want to make things right. Making things right, I said quietly, starts with taking responsibility, not asking for comfort. He nodded quickly. I'll testify if you need me to. I already told Naomi's office I'll sign whatever statement she needs. I looked away, out toward the street where Naomi waited in her car, windshield wipers beating a steady rhythm. The city moved around us, people rushing by, umbrellas snapping open, but for a moment time stood still. It was just me and the son I'd lost long before that forged deed ever hit a courthouse file. I'm not ready to forgive you, I said finally. My voice was calm but firm. And I don't know when I will be. But I see that you're trying. And that's something. He blinked hard, tears spilling over. I don't deserve another chance, but I'm still gonna try to earn one. I promise. For the first time, I believed him. I reached out and rested a hand on his shoulder. Not warmth. Not yet, but acknowledgement. You've got a lot to fix, Weston. Start by fixing yourself. He nodded, unable to speak, his shoulders trembling under my hand. I stepped back, pulled my coat tighter, and started toward Naomi's car. Take care of yourself, I said over my shoulder. Mama, he called after me. Thank you for not giving up on me. I didn't turn around. I almost did, I said softly. Don't make me regret that I didn't. When I reached the car, Naomi opened the door for me. I settled into the passenger seat, the leather cold against my palms. Through the rain-streaked window, I saw Weston standing alone on the courthouse steps, the drizzle turning into real rain, soaking through his suit. He didn't run this time. He just watched as we pulled away. Naomi glanced at me as we merged into traffic. You okay? I nodded slowly. He's learning what it means to lose something that mattered. She gave a small smile. Sometimes that's the only way we grow. I turned my gaze back to the window, where the gray sky was slowly breaking open into light. Maybe, I murmured. Maybe this time he'll actually become the man I raised him to be. By October, the first chill of fall had settled over Atlanta, turning the trees along Cedar Lane the color of rust and honey. The trial was set for January, but the house repairs had already begun. I stood across the street one afternoon, coffee cup warming my hands, watching as workers tore down the cheap vinyl siding Darlene had installed and uncovered the old red brick beneath. My brick, my home, the big yellow-red tag that once declared the property unsafe for occupancy, was finally gone. In its place, a smaller white notice flapped in the breeze. Permit approved. Owner Moren Vernon. Seeing my name printed there again made my throat tighten. For months it had been erased. Now it was coming back to life slowly, like me. Inside, the room smelled of fresh paint and sawdust. The walls echoed when I walked through them, but they were mine again. I ran my hand along the banister, tracing the grooves of the wood I'd polished for 20 years. It still remembered me, even if my son had forgotten for a while. Naomi stopped by that afternoon, heels clicking on the newly finished floors. Not bad, she said, smiling. Feels like home again. Almost, I replied. Still got a few ghosts to chase out. She set her briefcase on the counter and opened it. Speaking of ghosts, plea deal came through from the DA. I took a slow sip of coffee. I figured it might. They're offering a deal to avoid trial, she continued. Randall and Darlene plead guilty to fraud and forgery. Pay restitution, serve probation, no jail time as long as they stay away from you and the property. I stared out the window. The wind lifted a swirl of golden leaves into the yard, scattering them across the half-finished porch. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful for what we were talking about. No jail, I repeated. After all that. Naomi folded her hands. It's your call. We can go to trial and make an example out of them. You'll win, there's no question. But it'll drag out for months, maybe years. Or you can take the deal and be done with them for good. Done with them. Those words sat heavy in my chest. I thought about Darlene's smug smile the day she opened my door. The coldness in Randall's eyes at the station, the way Pepper had begged me in tears. And Weston trying now, but still haunted by what he'd allowed. What do you want? Naomi asked gently. I walked over to the window and looked at my garden, brown now, bare except for a few stubborn roses clinging to life. I thought about how much energy hate takes, how long bitterness lingers once you feed it. I didn't want to carry them into another year. I want peace, I said finally. Not revenge. Not courtrooms. Just peace. Naomi nodded slowly. Then we take the plea. You sure? She asked again. I turned back to her steady. I'm sure. She smiled proud, a little relieved. I'll tell the day we accept. When she left, the house was quiet again. The evening light slanted through the windows, warm and forgiving. I walked through each room, one by one, the kitchen, the living room, My bedroom touching the walls, reclaiming every inch of what was stolen. In the living room. I paused in front of the mirror by the door. My reflection looked older, yes, but not weaker. The woman staring back wasn't the same one who'd stood here months ago, begging to be let inside. This one carried her scars like proof of survival, for the first time in a long while. I felt something close to peace, not the fragile kind that depends on other people. Behaving right, the kind you build for yourself and guard like gold. 6 months later, spring returned to Georgia. The air smelled of rain and soil, of things learning how to grow again. I knelt in my front yard, hands deep in the dirt, planting a row of azaleas along the fence. Their buds were tight and pink, stubborn little things that refused to stay buried. Just like me. The house behind me looked whole again. New windows, steady roof, fresh paint, clean and quiet. Every board, every wall had been touched by the fight I'd waged to keep it. It wasn't just wood and brick anymore. It was proof. As I pressed another root into the soil, I heard footsteps on the walkway. When I turned, Weston stood there holding a cardboard box. He looked nervous, but this time not broken. The stiffness in his shoulders was gone, replaced by something softer. "I brought some of your photo albums," he said. "Thought you might want them back." I stood, brushed the dirt off my knees, and nodded. "Thank you." He set the box down gently beside me, glancing toward the house. "Looks good," he said quietly. "Better than before." "Feels better, too," I replied. "Peaceful." He smiled faintly, then rubbed his hands together. I started counseling. Been working on myself. Pepper and I, we're not getting back together. She's with her parents, trying to make things right in her own way. I looked at him closely. His eyes were clearer now, not darting away like before. "You're doing the work?" "Yes, ma'am." For a long moment, we stood there in silence, the wind rustling through the azaleas. Finally, I said, "Forgiveness isn't a switch, Weston. It's a seed. You plant it, water it, and maybe one day, it grows." He nodded slowly. "I understand. I just hope I'll still be around when it does." I smiled then, small but real. "You will." We carried the box inside together. The living room looked different, same layout, new light. I opened one of the albums, the leather cover cracked from years of fingerprints. Inside, there were photos of birthday cakes, graduations, and backyard barbecues. There he was, little Weston in his church suit, front teeth missing, grinning like the world could never hurt him. "I was a good kid," he said softly. "You still are," I replied. "You just lost your way for a while." He blinked back tears, then reached for the album and turned the page. We didn't talk much after that. We didn't need to. Some silences, I learned, could be healing. When he left, the sun was dipping low, washing the street in gold. I stood by the window, watching him walk down the path and disappear around the corner. The ache was still there, but it no longer hollowed me out. It simply reminded me that love, like any living thing, needs boundaries to stay alive. I went back outside and pressed the last azalea into the soil. The petals brushed my fingers, delicate and brave. "This time," I whispered, "I'm growing roots for me." Then I straightened, wiped my hands, and faced the camera crew set up across the yard, the same storytellers who'd followed this journey since that first broken day. The boom mic lowered slightly as I looked right into the lens. "If you're watching this," I said, "and someone's taken something from you, your home, your peace, your voice, don't give up. You can fight back. You can rebuild. You can come home again." I smiled, slow and steady. Keep watching. Click the next video on your screen right now and see another story like mine. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and tell me in the comments, what did you survive? The camera light blinked off and the crew began to pack up. The yard was quiet again, except for the soft hum of spring. I knelt once more beside the flowers, pressed my hand into the dirt, and let the earth remind me of something simple and sacred, that healing isn't about getting back what you lost. It's about planting something new where it used to hurt.